Hamilton would absolutely lose his mind if he saw my Robinhood account. Yeah, I'm talking about the guy from the Broadway musical. Actually, he'd probably lose his mind over the phone first. He'd probably look at me and ask, "What is a phone?" And I'd have to explain electricity, the internet, Wi Fi, apps, cloud computing. Honestly, we'd be there all day. But then I'd say, "Alex, that's not even the impressive part. Watch this." Tap, I just bought part of a company. He'd ask, "How much did it cost?" I'd say, "About the price of lunch." What? Well, modern lunch. Never mind. We'd have to spend another hour talking about inflation. But I think once we finally got through all of that, one thing would impress Alexander Hamilton more than anything else. Not the phone, not the technology, the access. This is the capitalist activist, where consumers become owners. This year, America celebrates 250 years of existence. For most of us, that means fireworks, cookouts, family, long weekend. But I want to celebrate something different. I want to celebrate one of the greatest expansions of economic participation in American history. Not because America's history is perfect, it isn't. Not because everyone has always had equal opportunity to build wealth. They haven't. The story of America is complicated, but it's also a story of expansion. Generation after generation, Americans have pushed the country to become more inclusive, more participatory, more accessible. And I think ownership is part of that story. Before Wall Street, let's go back. Philadelphia, 1776, inside a hot room. Yeah, no AC then either. Thomas Jefferson is writing. John Adams is debating. Benjamin Franklin is making edits. Together, they're drafting what will become the Declaration of Independence. But outside that room, the future of America's economy hasn't been written yet. There is no New York Stock Exchange, no NASDAQ, no investing apps, no online brokerages. In fact, there isn't even an American stock market as we know it today. The Declaration was creating a nation. The economy still had to be built. Enter Alexander Hamilton. The Revolutionary War ends. America wins its independence, but victory creates a new problem. The country is broke. The states owe money. The federal government owes money. Foreign governments aren't sure this new nation will survive. Investors aren't exactly lining up. That's where Alexander Hamilton enters the story as the nation's first Treasury Secretary. Hamilton believed something that seemed obvious today, but was revolutionary then. A country needs more than inspiring ideas, it needs trust. If America honored its debts, people would trust the government. If people trusted the government, capital would flow. If capital flowed, businesses could grow, commerce could expand, the economy could develop. Hamilton wasn't trying to create a stock market. He was trying to create confidence. And confidence became one of the foundations that allowed American financial markets to grow. Just a few years later, in 1792, 24 brokers signed the Button Agreement in New York. That agreement became the foundation of what would eventually grow into the New York Stock Exchange. Political independence came first. Financial institutions followed. The opportunities created by this new nation weren't available to everyone. Enslaved Black people had no freedom. Women had few legal rights. Native nations were being displaced. Voting was largely limited to white male property owners. And access to wealth, finance, investment was concentrated among a relatively small group of Americans. The promise of America and access to that promise didn't expand overnight. It expanded because generation after generation pushed the country forward. The abolition of slavery, women's, the civil rights movement, retirement investing, discount brokerages, online investing. Each generation widened the circle of participation. Not perfectly, but noticeably. Now let's bring Hamilton back to 2026. I'd finally finish explaining the phone. I'd explain the internet. I'd explain that people voluntarily argue with strangers online. I'd explain that somehow we can order dinner, call a cab, buy stock on the same device. And then I would hand him my phone. Go ahead, buy part of a company. And I honestly don't think the technology would amaze him nearly as much as the access, because Hamilton spent his career trying to build financial institutions. I think he'd be amazed that millions of ordinary Americans can now participate in them. Not just the bankers, merchants, or the wealthy, ordinary people. People saving a little at a time, buying fractional shares, investing for retirement. Yeah, we live long enough to retire now and becoming owners. And that's why I started the Capitalist Activist. Because I believe America's next great expansion isn't just about creating more consumers, it's about creating more owners. People who understand how businesses work, people who vote their shares, people who ask questions, people who participate in the economy they help to build. Ownership doesn't solve every problem. It changes your relationship with the system. You stop seeing companies as places that only take your money. You begin seeing them as institutions that you can help shape. So, in honor of America's 250th birthday, here is my Investors' Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident: that ownership should not be reserved for the wealthy alone, that every person should have the opportunity to participate in the economy they help build, that investing is more than a pursuit of profit. It is the pursuit of participation, agency, and the pursuit of influence. We believe that informed owners build stronger communities. We educate. We believe that informed owners build strong communities, that educated investors strengthen families, that ownership can help close opportunity gaps that consumption alone never will. We recognize that this promise has not always been shared equally. The American experiment has expanded because each generation pushed the nation closer to its ideals. Our generation has work to do as well, not simply to create more consumers, but to create more owners. Owners who learn, participate, ask questions, and owners who vote. Owners who help shape the future companies and the economy they help build. That's our declaration. And this is the future we're investing in. This is the capitalist activist. We don't just invest to make money. We invest to make change. Own what you consume.